Hey everyone, Anthony Morganti here. A week or so ago, I did a video demoing how to use a gradient map in Photoshop to give your image a look, maybe even create your own signature look. The thing is about gradient maps in Photoshop is if you have a lot of images, you'd have to go through each of those steps every single time to apply your signature look to those images. In this video, I'm going to show you how you could export that gradient map with your signature look from Photoshop so that you can then apply it to future images in Photoshop in just a click or two, and even use it in Luminar, in ON1 Photo Raw, and even in Lightroom. If you haven't seen that video I referred to at the top, I'll have a link to it in the description below this video. After that video posted, I received a lot of comments. Many people were asking me, can you do this in Lightroom? Can you do it in Luminar and ON1 and so on? One person suggested that I do this video. They said, I think on your next video, you should demo how you could export that gradient map. And they kind of knew what they were talking about. So I'd like to thank them for the suggestion. And yes, you can use this gradient map in Lightroom, Luminar, and so on. And I'm going to show you how to do it. It's just a couple extra steps at the beginning. Then once you do that, it'll save you a lot of time. Now I'm going to create a gradient map on that same exact image I used in that first video. And you can remember, for those of you that did watch that video, I clicked down on this little circle down here. Well, instead of that, I didn't mention you could get to gradient maps up here in the adjustments. If you're using the photography workspace like I am, you'll have an adjustments tab, and the gradient map adjustment layer is right here. It's the same exact thing as if I click down there in that little circle. So I have a gradient map and we don't want to apply this one. So we're going to go to this drop down. And if you saw that video, you saw that I demonstrated how to install these legacy gradients. By default, these won't be in the gradient tool or the gradient adjustment layer. So you're going to have to add these. Watch that video to see how that is done. I'm going to go to photographic toning, and we're going to pick a gradient that doesn't necessarily look that great, maybe, although I prefer one that look good. One that is kind of obvious. I want to show you that this really is a cool thing. What I'm going to do. If I could find one I like. Kind of like that one. All right, so we're going to go with this one. Now that's just one step. The next step is we have to change the blend mode from normal to color. And then the last step is we take the opacity and take it down to taste. So just down to a number that we like. I'm going to leave it relatively strong just so you could definitely see that the gradient map was applied to the image. All right, so we did that. And then as I mentioned, if you had a second image, a third image, a fourth image, you'd have to go through those steps every time to get your signature look. Well, what we could do is we could export this as a LUT. I'm going to show you how to do that. Go up to File, Export, and then down to Color Lookup Tables. When you do that, you'll get this dialog box. Now, for the description, you don't have to change anything there. You could put your copyright info here, your name. Grid points. I suggest use 128. That's more than enough. If you use more, what you may find is that your LUT won't work in some applications, and it just takes a long time to save. So use 128, and you're going to want to use just one format, the .cube format, and click OK. And then you'll get this to save it. I'm going to save it to the desktop, and then I got to give it a name. So I'm going to call it my look, if I could spell. Okay, my look, and it says .lut. But it's actually going to save as .cube, and you'll see that in a moment. So we'll click Save. And it does this stupid box thing there, and it's saved. All right, now we're just going to get rid of this whole thing. We're going to get back right where we started. So we're right back where we started. Now I mentioned you could apply this look with just a click or two. All you need to do is go back to Adjustments again and go to right here. See Color Lookup? Click on that. Go to this drop down, Load 3D LUT. Go to Load 3D LUT. Go to My Look, that I called it, and click Open. And it takes a second, and there it is. You just applied your look. Now, what you could do, you notice how, or remember how, when I saved or when I created that gradient map, the last step I did is I brought opacity down to something around 75. You may want to save your LUT with an opacity of 100, because then once you apply it, you always could go back to this opacity slider and bring it down if you need to. So that's an option, but there's before and there's after. So you could see that it's a lot faster now to get your signature look applied to an image in Photoshop. But I mentioned you could use this in other apps as well. I mentioned Luminar and ON1, but really any application that uses a LUT, you could use this, even video applications. And I'll just show you real quick. We'll go to Luminar. And I have that same image in Luminar. And what you want to do is go to this mood tab. It's in the creative section. Go to choose LUT, go to load custom LUT, mylook.cube, click open. Now by default, Luminar only puts an amount of 30 on there. You could put it up to 100 to see the full LUT. So there's before and there's after. Now in ON1, it's a little more convoluted, but you could still easily do it. It's convoluted the first time you do it, I guess you should say. So what you need to do is go to the Effects tab of ON1, go to Add Filter, go to LUTs. All right, now it applied something there. We don't want that, but we're going to apply our LUT. So what we need to do is then go to Import, and this box comes up. So we got mylook.cube, so we're going to open it. All right, now we got to choose a category. Now I don't have any categories, so I got to add one. So I'm going to call this my looks. All right, so it's going to put this in this category, and we're going to click OK. Now it's saying the import job has been processed. There were no errors, so it worked. So there's our look right there. All right, so just close. Didn't apply it yet, but it's there. So to apply it, what you need to do is go to category and see my looks down there. Go to that, and it goes slow right here. Does that circle? There it is. And then there's the look, my look. And then you'd have to bring opacity down to get it to look a little more like you want. If you want to try to reset it, you could reset it, go back to category, my looks. I'd like do it like that. So it's a little more convoluted, but once it's in there, and you could use it every time. Now, again, you could, any application that uses a LUT, you could use that. But Lightroom doesn't use LUTs. And I mentioned you could create that signature look with gradient maps in Photoshop and then use it in Lightroom. You have to do a couple more steps to do that. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and we have our image here. We don't even need this anymore. Let's just take that away. All right, so we're right back where we started. What we need to do is create a profile, and that profile, we're going to use that LUT we created. All right, now to create a profile, what you need to do is you need to go up to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And you probably know, if you've used Camera Raw, that this tab is presets. And then you probably know that you could create a preset by clicking on this little page, like folded up corner page, right? You could create a preset. Well, you also could create a profile. What you need to do is hold in the Alt or Option key. It's Alt if you have a PC, Option if you have a Mac, and then click on that little page with the folded up corner. And now you're creating a profile. And we're going to call this My Look, all right? And we're going to save it to user profiles. That's fine. Tone map strength, I usually put at medium. All right. Now we need the color lookup table. So we're going to load a .cube file. So we're going to load that. So we're going to click on this. And then we're going to go mylook.cube. Click load. All right. It takes a second. All right. So we have my look is the name of this. It's going to be in user profiles. The tone strength will be medium. The color lookup table is that what we just put it in there. It's got that original name there, but don't worry about that. And then we're going to click OK. So I just created a profile. Okay, now how do you use it? Well, go up to the Edit panel, go to your profile browser right here, right? And then you could go to User Profiles, and there's my look right there. So we added it now in Adobe Camera Raw. I'm going to cancel out of this. Yes. Okay. We're going to minimize that. Let's open up Lightroom. I'll show you. Once you do that, it's automatically in Lightroom. And I'll show you. I'll prove it to you in a second once Lightroom opens. All right, I have that same image. We're going to go up to the Basic tab. We're going to click on these. I call them the 4 little bricks right here. We're going to go to User Profiles. There's my look. Look at that right there. And then we could apply it to any image we want. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So that's how you could use gradient maps in Photoshop to create a LUT. Then use that LUT in any application that uses LUTs. Then use that LUT to create a profile using Camera Raw. And then that profile is in Lightroom automatically, and you could use it on any image in Lightroom. So I'd like to thank that specific person in the comment section of that previous video who suggested that I do this video. Sorry, I didn't catch your name, but I thank you very much for giving me this idea to do this. And I'd like to thank everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.